Good morning, class, and welcome to what will hopefully be one of our last lectures of the year. 3 weeks to go. Super excited for you guys all to be done and have a great summer break. Next week, we'll probably do like a fun assignment where it's going to go out and learn whatever you want. But I do really want you guys to at least get the basics of something called the endocrine system. So we'll spend the next 3 classes on that, which will be today, and then next class, and then coming back a week from today. We'll finish up. You guys will do a little like web research on it. I'm going to give you some notes today. Today's just going to be the basics of the endocrine system, and then later. But what the endocrine system really is it's a network of glands within your body, and these glands help control your growth. So they release something called a hormone. We're going to talk about that today. And you guys have probably talked about hormones before because you just all went through puberty or still kind of going through puberty. And puberty is all controlled by hormones. So it's telling your body what to do. It's telling your cells, hey, it's time to grow. It's time to become an adult. And really, biologically, it's telling you to be ready to have children, to become reproductively active. And we find that the endocrine system hormones are in pretty much all living species that are multicellular. So even plants have hormones. Plants have hormones that tell them to grow towards the light. That's how a plant knows to grow up towards the light. It tells them to grow upwards. So hormones are really just signals that tell you where to, what to do. They're signals to tell the cells in a body, in a plant, in anything what to do. So we're going to focus obviously on human endocrine system because it's really important for your health. A lot of health problems come from this. You guys are, as we go through some of these, you're probably going to know somebody who has issues with some of these hormones. They don't quite work right or they don't respond right to them. So that's why I want to cover it, and it'll kind of be the last thing we cover for the year. So the endocrine system, just like I said, it's a bunch of glands that do different things. A lot of your endocrine system is controlled by something called your hypothalamus. It's up here in your brain. I do want to do a little bit on the brain too, so we'll do that too. But the hypothalamus is right here in the center of the brain, and it kind of is a control center for your whole body. It regulates your temperature, and in a lot of ways it regulates your mood through hormones and also through nerves. It doesn't really produce any hormones itself, but it tells all these glands when to produce hormones and where. So glands that do produce hormones in your body are the pituitary gland, which sits right beneath the hypothalamus, and then right behind the hypothalamus, you have the pineal gland. Both of these actually produce hormones. We'll go through what those are later. That'll be next class period. Down in your throat, you have the thyroid gland and a parathyroid gland that goes in there. This regulates your metabolism. Down on your kidneys, above each one, you have the adrenal glands. These make adrenaline. I think you guys have probably heard of that. We'll talk about that later too. We already talked about the hormones of the pancreas, insulin and glucagon, and it is located right next to your small intestine. And then in females, you have ovaries. These are going to produce certain hormones that help regulate sexual characteristics and reproduction. And then the same thing for males. You have testes. They're dropped a little lower than ovaries. They actually came from the same exact tissue when you were a child, which is pretty neat. And then hormones told one to become ovaries and one to become testes. And both of these produce sexual hormones that control things like puberty and also the production of sex cells like gametes is what a sex cell is, but sperm, and then in ovaries, it produces eggs. So that is the outline of the endocrine system. The definition for you, which you should write down because it'll help you memorize it and you'll need it for your quiz today, is the endocrine system is the system of glands, each of which secretes different types of hormones directly into the bloodstream. That's really what it is. And now I'm going to talk about what those hormones do. Okay. So we already went through all these. I am not going to have you label that because I don't have it. But I do want to go through how the endocrine system works today, and then we'll actually start talking about specific hormones to give you examples. But I don't want to overwhelm you. So hormones are chemical messengers that signal cells and tell them what to do. So I kind of have a little thing like this guy's got a signal fire. And in these guys, it's bringing the Grim Reaper. I thought that was kind of funny. But they're chemical messengers. They're sent through your bloodstream, and they're going to tell your cells what to do, like maybe grow facial hair, or maybe produce sperm, or some of them tell you to become attached that we'll talk about. There's like one when you kiss somebody, a hormone's released that makes you attached to them. It causes your brain to grow chemicals that attaches you to them. So hormones do a lot of different things, but really the basic is they are chemical messengers, okay, that send signals, okay? They're sent to the whole body via the bloodstream, but only certain cells listen to the message. So just because the message gets sent to your whole entire body, only specific cells can actually listen to the message of the hormone. Okay, so this is me in class trying to teach you guys, and most of you don't listen, but a few of you do. So I'm getting to the ones, actually you all need it, but unfortunately I am not the endocrine system, and I can't install you with special receptors. So for a cell to get a hormone's message, it must have a specific receptor. So two drawings of a receptor. So here's the cell making the hormone, the signal. This one has a receptor with a specific shape. So if you come over here, it's got a nice specific shape. And if it attaches to that, then it's going to send out an effect inside the cell. It's going to tell the cell to actually probably turn on certain DNA and genes so the cell can start doing something. Remember, all your cells have the same DNA, but they obviously don't do the same thing because my tongue is nothing like my heart, right? So hormones actually help send signals to say you do this or you do this cell. But to do it, they have to have this little receptor, and it has to fit perfectly. So when this signal gets sent out, this hormone might go around this non-target cell, but it doesn't matter. The hormone won't attach to it. The cell won't do anything it tells it to. This one, on the other hand, will have the hormone attach, and then it's going to tell the cell to do a certain job. Okay. Even more interesting is different cells can respond to hormones messages differently. So they might all get the same signal. They have the same receptor, but the effect that this receptor gives can be different. So one hormone can have more than one job. That's really complicated, but I do kind of want you guys to have an idea that that happens. So for example, testosterone, we'll talk much more in depth next class period. I think you guys will actually find that really interesting, is when we go through what hormones do. But testosterone will cause puberty in males. So it can cause facial hair to grow on a man's face. It also causes their muscles to get bigger and wider, their bones to strengthen. But at the same time, it's not going to do the same thing to the testes. It's just going to produce sperm. It's not going to produce sperm inside a skin cell. So hormones can have 2, 3, 4 different jobs, and it just depends on what cell is responding to them. So this receptor can have this shape up here, and then down here it can do something completely different. And it just shows you how amazing the cells in our body are. We will get to hormones you need to know. That'll be next class. I think you'll find that really, really much more interesting. But before we leave today, I want you guys to watch this TED Ed on hormones, because I think it'll explain everything I did right there. And then you're going to answer a few questions on the exit ticket for your class. And let's see.
Over the course of our lifetimes, our bodies undergo a series of extraordinary metamorphoses. We grow, experience puberty, and many of us reproduce. Behind the scenes, the endocrine system works constantly to orchestrate these changes. Alongside growth and sexual maturity, this system regulates everything from your sleep to the rhythm of your beating heart, exerting its influence over each and every one of your cells. The endocrine system relies on interactions between 3 features to do its job: glands, hormones, and trillions of cell receptors. Firstly, there are several hormone-producing glands, 3 in your brain and 7 in the rest of your body. Each is surrounded by a network of blood vessels, from which they extract ingredients to manufacture dozens of hormones. Those hormones are then pumped out in tiny amounts, usually into the bloodstream. From there, each hormone needs to locate a set of target cells in order to bring about a specific change. To find its targets, it's helped along by receptors, which are special proteins inside or on the cell's surface. Those receptors recognize specific hormones as they waft by and bind to them. When this happens, that hormone receptor combination triggers a range of effects that either increase or decrease specific processes inside the cell to change the way that cell behaves. By exposing millions of cells at a time to hormones in carefully regulated quantities, the endocrine system drives large-scale changes across the body. Take, for instance, the thyroid and the two hormones it produces, triiodothyronine and thyroxine. These hormones travel to most of the body's cells, where they influence how quickly those cells use energy and how rapidly they work. In turn, that regulates everything from breathing rate to heartbeat, body temperature, and digestion. Hormones also have some of their most visible and familiar effects during puberty. In men, puberty begins when the testes start secreting testosterone. That triggers the gradual development of the sexual organs, makes facial hair sprout, and causes the voice to deepen and height to increase. In women, estrogen secreted from the ovaries signals the start of adulthood. It helps the body develop, makes the hips widen, and thickens the womb's lining, preparing the body for menstruation or pregnancy. An enduring misconception around the endocrine system is that there are exclusively male and female hormones. In fact, men and women have estrogen and testosterone, just in different amounts. Both hormones play a role in pregnancy as well, alongside more than 10 other hormones that ensure the growth of the fetus, enable birth, and help the mother feed her child. Such periods of hormonal change are also associated with fluctuations in mood. That's because hormones can influence the production of certain chemicals in the brain, like serotonin. When chemical levels shift, they may cause changes in mood as well. But that's not to say that hormones have unlimited power over us. They're frequently viewed as the main drivers of our behavior, making us slaves to their effects, especially during puberty. But research shows that our behavior is collectively shaped by a variety of influences, including the brain and its neurotransmitters, our hormones, and various social factors. The primary function of the endocrine system is to regulate our bodily processes, not control us. Sometimes disease, stress, and even diet can disrupt that regulatory function, however, altering the quantity of hormones that glands secrete or changing the way that cells respond. Diabetes is one of the most common hormonal disorders, occurring when the pancreas secretes too little insulin, a hormone that manages blood sugar levels, and hypo and hyperthyroidism occur when the thyroid gland makes too little or too much thyroid hormone. When there's too little thyroid hormone, that results in a slowed heart rate, fatigue, and depression. And when there's too much thyroid hormone, weight loss, sleeplessness, and irritability. But most of the time, the endocrine system manages to keep our bodies in a state of balance. And through its constant regulation, it drives the changes that ultimately help us become who we are. If you want to learn more about the ins and outs of the